Something has come up. The possibility that I might be leaving Paris. Not for a holiday. Not for a few weeks. But for a completely different life. I've lived in a few different countries, and Paris has been home for a while now. But am I still the sort of person who just jumps into the unknown and reinvents herself? What surprises me isn't the opportunity. It's how quickly it's changed the way I look at Paris. I'm French.
I'm old-fashioned.
This city is my home.
Don't mind this. That's
No matter where I've gone in the world, I've always come back to Paris.
as long as you agree.
I feel the city completes me on several levels.
Old-fashioned with me.
But the funny thing about having a life in a place like this is, eventually it starts feeling ordinary, which sounds like a good thing. Until you realize how easily ordinary things become invisible. And even though I'm French, there's more to me than that. Every move changed me. Every move taught me something. And maybe that's why I can't ignore this opportunity. At the same time, I'm lucid. I realize that Paris, indeed anywhere, has pros and cons.
Why charge me €9 if it doesn't have alcohol?
Okay, I know that not everybody gets to come to Paris. I don't care, I live here, and sometimes I just want to feel crabby, okay? Now, I've lived in a few countries and I learned many things from those experiences, one of which is what I don't like. And that's an important thing to learn. But also, when you don't like something, you try to expand your life in different horizons, and that helps you grow. I don't know how to go about this. I just remember feeling like really excited and thinking, oh my God, just one of a lot of excitement about Korea, but generally about opening a new chapter, doing something different, starting a new quest, if you will. That was my first thought. And of course, Korea is, at least in the last decade or so, has become quite a place of fantasy. In Europe, I'd say it's basically how people felt about Japan, 10 years ago. Suddenly there was a shift and everyone was really into Korea. But the opportunity isn't really about Seoul. I mean, not underneath at all. It's about possibility. The possibility of becoming someone slightly different again. I've often wondered whether curiosity starts to fade as you get older. Whether one day you're supposed to stop starting over.
L'amour est mort, n'en parlons plus. Chacun sa route, chacun sa route.
Eventually, the idea stopped being hypothetical.
Et s'il pleut,
It became something I actively pursued.
tant mieux.
A possible future.
Je veux courir aussi, mais grand chemin aussi.
I started imagining where I might live,
Je traîne, traîne. Moi, je veux
what my weekends might look like,
tout mon
what kind of person I might become there.
être une reine, être une fille, être quelqu'un.
I am looking at apartments and basically trying to figure out how I could get an apartment with animals, getting as much information about how the real estate works in Seoul as possible. Yeah, thinking about what kind of things I can take. If I take things, do I just buy everything there? But do I leave what do I do with my things here? Most people say it's apparently impossible to learn Korean, but I do not agree. I think, at least in my experience learning languages, I think a lot of people give up too easily. There's a moment when you start and it's all interesting and it's like it's nice, you're learning a new language, but then it gets really hard because you feel like no matter how much you work, you're not making any progress. And that's when people give up. And that's exactly where you have to double down. I'm really excited because I don't know if this is representative of what the culture or art in Korea is, but just the simple colors that have depth, even though you can't see it, so much depth and so simple, but there's so much to it. I'm excited. If Korea is anything like that, I'm really excited.
Via, via, vieni via di qui.
Around this time, I went away in France to spend a few days by the sea.
Questi fiori azzurri. Via, via. Neanche questo tempo grigio, pieno di musica
And a shift started happening.
e di uomini che ti sono piaciuti. It's wonderful, it's wonderful, it's wonderful. Good luck, my baby. It's wonderful, it's wonderful, it's wonderful. I dream of you. Chips, chips. Do 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 do. Chip. Do 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 do. Chip, boom, boom, boom. Do 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 do. Via, via. Vieni via con me.
The more seriously I thought about leaving,
Non perderti per niente al mondo.
the more aware I became of what was already here, in front of
Non
me.
perderti per niente al mondo. Lo spettacolo d'arte varia di uno innamorato di te. It's wonderful, that's wonderful, that's wonderful. Good luck, my baby. It's wonderful, that's wonderful.
Not the big things,
Wonderful, I dream of you. Chips, chips. Do-do-do-do-do. Chip, chip. Do-do-do-do-do. Chip, chip.
not the headline stuff people visit France for.
Alfie, this is a stone, okay? Don't be stupid.
The small things. Lunch.
Wine and cheese. I've been away from France before, but the minute you leave, you're just like, cheese.
Familiar conversations.
Questo amore buio, pieno di uomini. Via, Entra e fatti un bagno caldo. C'è un accappatoio azzurro.
Shared routines.
Fuori piove un mondo freddo. That's wonderful, that's wonderful, that's wonderful. Good luck, my baby, that's wonderful.
It's the sort of sea that you don't swim in. You just
That's
appreciate.
wonderful. I dream of you. Chips, chips, chips. Do 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 do, chi boom, boom. Do 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 do, chi boom, boom. Do 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 do.
What else will I miss about France? Most importantly, it's the pace of life, because it's both fast and not fast at the same time. And this is really about Paris, honestly. It's super fast, but if you're not working or doing something specific, it's really, really calm. You can do both. So I think I'll miss that. I think the part that will be most interesting for me is navigating the cultural cues that people cannot explain to you straight up like that. You just have to sort of feel your way through it. You have a general sense of what you should or should not be doing, and then you have to figure it out on your own each time. It's like mental gymnastics, and I find that fascinating. But I just wonder how people behave in their apartment buildings, or neighborly behavior, whatever you want to call it. Because in Paris, it's like you have a lot more freedom in your own home to do what you do, and people put up with a lot more than they do elsewhere, because it's a busy city anyway, and people don't have the same schedules. So it's you try to endure your neighbors. Well, you do here in Paris, people having their lives, all of it. You even get to see it because people don't close their curtains and stuff. And I kind of like that in a way, if it doesn't annoy me too much. I hate the sound of people fighting. That's the one thing that I cannot stand. But I don't know how it's going to be over there, to how people behave, if what I do is suddenly going to be scandalous. Probably.
Leaving a place isn't really about geography. It's about patterns. The routes you know without thinking. The people you recognize without even knowing their names. And then there are things that are harder to explain. Belonging. Familiarity. Identity.
What if what I'd miss is in Paris? What if it's the version of myself that exists here? But there's another side of the story. The side that loves beginnings. The excitement of getting lost. Starting again. Maybe comfort is overrated. Maybe growth requires disruption.
One more kiss, dear. One more sigh. Only this, dear, is goodbye.
The strange thing was,
For all
imagining Seoul changed
is
Paris.
such pain and such pleasure that I'll treasure till I die.
Or maybe it changed me.
So for now, dear, au revoir, ma belle. But I vow, dear, not farewell.
Suddenly I was paying attention again.
For in
Places I had stopped seeing.
we may have all love's glory, our love story. To tell.
I gotta say, since the idea concretized, Paris feels quite different now. It feels temporary. So in that sense, I just find myself appreciating it more, as if I'm trying to savor the last bits of it before I don't see it for a while, you know? I'm noticing things again. I'm not in my daily routine just going through things quickly. It almost feels like a vacation, I don't know, traveling through Paris. But while living here, it's kind of really strange.
Until tomorrow. Goodbye.
This is when the real question appeared. Not whether I'd moved to Seoul, but who I was becoming. How many fresh starts do you need? How many reinventions? How many chapter ones? At what point does adventure become a habit? And at what point does staying become a choice? Am I still the type of person who leaves? I think I have to say that, yeah, I am. I really am. Because it gives me so much excitement and joy, just the thought of it even. So yeah, I think I'll always be the sort of person who wants to experience new things, open new doors, but there's a difference with before, with the way I used to do it, which was just like, go, it doesn't matter. Before, I always thought, okay, well, I'll come back and I'll enjoy Paris when I'm done with whatever. I'll always have Paris. But I do think now it has to be the sort of place that is worth leaving Paris for. It cannot be just anywhere. I think I've realized that time is precious, and I have different standards now. So yeah, it will be. I'll be a little bit more discerning, but I still do think that I'm the type of person who'd like to try new things, new places to live, new cultures, new identity, new everything. Whenever the Eiffel Tower starts sparkling, it really does something to me every single time, still. And I know that life in Paris is not just that. It's not really. But there is so much beauty here. And I've cultivated, a lot here, relationships, otherwise. Yeah. Crazy. Anyway, and I don't know if I want to become just anybody. I think you keep different aspects of yourself, and parts of you become less bold when you go to a place, and some parts of you shine more. I didn't get it. I guess Seoul's not happening. And there goes weeks of planning and dreaming. Yeah.
Call me a fool.
I expected relief, but to be honest, there was some disappointment.
Play hard, forlorn, heart that's strong, makes you love bone.
Not because I desperately wanted Seoul,
Thought I had it under control,
but because I'd already started imagining that life.
but it shook me, gripped me, grabbed my soul, yeah.
And suddenly that version of my future
Had to let
disappeared.
go. Don't you know, we said I could help it.
Maybe this was never really about Seoul or Paris. Maybe it was about paying attention. This opportunity forced me to see my life clearly. What excites me, what I value, what still feels unfinished. I thought I was deciding whether to leave Paris. Instead, I discovered why I've stayed.
And maybe adventure isn't always about going somewhere new. Maybe sometimes it's learning how to see what you already have.